Hey, welcome. It's Jim One here, and we are counting down the days to the Sam Rayburn tournament later this month. Where are we? This is always backwards to me when I look at it like this. 19 days out, okay? So, what did I do today to get ready for this tournament? Well, I finished viewing day 4 of the 2020 FLW Tour tournament on Sam Rayburn, which I was a participant. And after I've watched that, I've watched it over a few different days now, so I think I've watched the last hour and a half of it today. And my first impression is nobody won that tournament. John Cox won the tournament, but really, I think we never saw like a major surge by any of the finalists. It was just kind of just where was like the mega bag? Nobody brought in the mega bag to like run away with the thing. So it's almost as if everybody lost the tournament rather than somebody winning the tournament. But anyways, congrats to him. I didn't mean to take away anything from that win because it was a win, but that tournament was lacking the like runaway type of leader. So anyhow, there were a few things I did pick up from that tournament by watching it. Just the actual getting my mind into the mood of that lake. That's good. One pattern that several guys were using was fishing really shallow and some really shallow trees, which I was not I was not at all aware of that deal going on. And some of that was done in some rather muddy water, not like ultra muddy, but dirtier water than what I would been fishing myself or what I was fishing. So that was interesting. The other thing is, it seems like there's one of the top finishers was Daryl Gleason, and I really liked the fact that he had a deep spot he could go to and get his foundation on this deep spot. And then the rest of the day, he just go try to hunt up just a couple of bigger bites. So that's the value of having a deep spot like that is enormous because you can fish free and easy the rest of the day after you got that base limit. And if you fail the rest of the day, well, at least you got that base limit and your two base limits. If you fish days 1 and 2 and you still at least have those base limits, you're going to be right there at the check range. And if you can call up like what he did, well, then you are in the top 10. So the deep school is premium. The biggest bags seem to have come out of areas with hydrilla. Now, on days 1 and 2, John Cox was leading, and I actually practiced in that exact creek area in that tournament. And I remember catching some fish. There's a lot of hydrilla back in there. And so I'm thinking those fish were, yeah, and he even said there was a bald spot with a hard bottom surrounded by hydrilla where he caught them on days 1 and 2. That spot did dry up on days 3 and 4. But my whole point about this spot of John's, and then some like, gosh, the guy that weighed Corey Neese, he weighed a couple good bags, 20-pound bags, one on day 1 and one on day 3, I think. And I forget what he had the last day, but he was doing a lot of rattle trapping around hydrilla and that. So the biggest bags came out of the hydrilla, which is something I had heard many years ago. That's that sort of theory on things with Rayburn at this time of year. The other thing would be the baits. When I go down there, this really is nothing new. I better have a chatterbait tied on if I'm going to throw around any of those shallow trees. I better have a swim jig tied on. I better have a couple different crankbaits tied on for different depths, and a Carolina rig. So those are probably the basic, very fundamental backbone of my strategy should revolve around those baits. And then I can add to it with other stuff that's peripheral to that. But if I just tied up that stuff right there, that could go a long ways. And the crankbaits, that's a variety. I mean, there's lots of options there. Obviously, the lipless crankbait is definitely going to be tied on. I'll probably have a couple of them tied on. And then I'll have some divers on there as well, trying to probe some of the deeper depths. So that was some good viewing. Just really got me in the mood and in tune. And just, I got the feel of Rayburn right there. So I'm feeling good. And it's coincidentally the way I caught him in that tournament. You know what? On day one, this is how I remember day one. Day one, I had 3 fish with about 20 minutes left to go, and I'd been fishing hydrilla all day, and I just had 3 small ones, just 3 average fish. And I remember just being out of options, and I remember this brush pile that was out a little deeper water in the area I was fishing. So I go over to this brush pile. In the last 20 minutes, I catch, and that fish didn't practice, never had a bite, but I was out of options. And plus, it was a lot colder that first day. So I'm thinking, well, maybe some of these fish pulled out of the hydrilla and just pulled back a little bit. And I'm like, well, hey, that brush pile is like just a perfect place for these fish to pull into. And sure enough, I went there and I caught my 4th fish and my 5th fish. And then, then I'm like, hey, I'm on them. So I push it right to the limit. And so then I'm done fishing, and I got to head back down to the dam area where the weigh-in is. And I come out of where I am, and all of a sudden it's like major waves, and I had to push that boat so hard to make it all the way back. And I had no rain gear when I pulled out of that creek. I had no rain gear on, pulled out of there. And I pushed it right to the limit, so I'm like, I don't have time to stop and put rain gear on. So by the time I got down to the dam, to the check-in area, literally I was absolutely soaked head to toe. My marshal that day, he had never even been in a bass boat before. So, hey, welcome to the big leagues, buddy. He was soaked head to toe. He'd never seen a boat ride like that in his life. I promise you that. I hate to do that. That's just... But that was the reality. I didn't know it was that choppy once because I was in this protected area. So damn, that poor fella. First riding a boat and first day in a bass boat, and he gets to see what it's like to spear some waves. Oh, and I'm not normally a maniac driver, but I pushed it as hard as I could to get back on time with those fish. So then, anyways, day 2, then I went to a different area. Took out the lipless bait and went at it and probably caught like 9 or 10 keepers, but nothing great. And what did I finish? Like 80th? I think about 80th in the tournament, out of the money by 5 or 10 spots. So anyhow, so I viewed that. The other thing I did is they had a BFL tournament there today. Today is Saturday. They had a BFL there today. So I looked up the results. The results were surprising in that the leaders did not have like the mega bags. The winner on the pro side had 19 something, not even 20 pounds. However, the co-angler had the biggest bag of all. The guy that won the co-angler division, he had like 21 something, which tells me usually when a co-angler does that well, most of the time, not always, but probably like 8 out of 10 times, that co-angler's on some kind of deep pattern. And because a shallow pattern where your cast, the co-angler's at a disadvantage in that situation. So it tells me he was out in deeper water to catch those fish. The average weights, if there was 230 boats, or approximately 230 boats, I counted them, but might have miscounted, who knows. So at 70, the place that I'm concerned with is obviously first, and then I'm also concerned with the 70th position, because that's approximately 1/3 of the field. Because in our field, 50th is approximately 1/3. So at 70th position was about 10 pounds. So in our tournament, our 1/3 of the way down is going to be somewhere probably around 10, maybe a little more, because we are pros. We're supposed to catch more fish and bigger fish, right? Doesn't always happen that way individually, but on a full field of anglers, maybe there's a little lift to the weights in our league as compared to a BFL league. Not to cut down on those guys, because there are definitely some hooks in that stuff. But just from top to bottom, there's just a little more lift to the weights in the upper pro leagues. There were some guys fishing in that BFL that I recognize some names that I will be competing against here in a couple weeks. So that's kind of an interesting side note. None of them did that outstanding, so they got their homework to do ahead of them as well. So anyways, I looked at that. What else did I do today? I actually touched some of my tackle today. Probably the main emphasis of what I'm going to revolve around is a crankbait. So I got all my crankbaits together in a huddle, and I am going to address those tomorrow and see if I can't. First of all, I want to make sure I got enough of certain baits, and enough of the right size, enough of the right colors, and then I want to actually cull out some of them. Some of them I just assume leave here back in Minnesota, because that is one of my goals, is to reduce the amount of tackle that I carry with me. And that's always an ongoing challenge, an ongoing project. So I'll be doing that. And then lastly, the thing I did today to get ready is I continued with my exercise program, which today was a lift day. So just did some lifting with barbells, dumbbells, some body weight stuff, and just tried to, just work on strength exercises. So that is that. We will see you next time, which next time will be tomorrow, which may actually be today already, because this is kind of late at night. So anyhow, over and out.